Good day, everybody. Uh, my name is Timson once again. Last class, we talked about definition of Python. We discussed what Python is, the founder. We talked about the basics of Python. We talked about the foundation, and we made so much verbosity about Python, and today we are going to be going further than that. Before we start to get our hands dirty with Python, of course we need to discuss what Python is, what it contains, and we have to of course discuss the wordy part of Python. Python, today we're going to be talking about the data types in Python. um, Python has a rich set of fundamental data types. The operations that are applicable on an object depends on its data type. That is, an object's data type determines which operations are applicable on it. The list of data types are, of course, let me say the data types is subdivided into two. We have the primitive data type. We have the primitive data type. Let me, permit me to. We have the primitive data type, and we have the what non-primitive data type. But right now, we are going to be starting off with the primitive data type, uh, which is what these are the primitive data types. Now, the primitive data types, number one of them, I think, is strings. Now, what are strings? Let me say strings are sequences of Unicode characters. What do I mean by Unicode? Unicode is a standard that uses 16-bit character to represent characters on your computer, unlike ASCII. ASCII, by ASCII, I mean ASCII. ASCII is simply American Standard Code for Information Interchange, which consists of eight bits. Unlike Unicode, Unicode uses 16 bits and represents characters by integer value denoted in base 16. Um, Unicode strings are typically the normal word, enclosed in a quotation. Like this, I represented with, let me say, a word like ABCD. I didn't put comma to delimitate it. So this quotation mark specify or indicates that this data value is a string. Another primitive data type is, we have the integer. What are integers? Integers are like 32-bit long, and their range is from, say, minus 2 raised to power 32 to 2 raised to power 32 minus 1. Let's say from a negative integer to positive integer. Now, integers are whole numbers, numbers without decimal point. You understand? Whole numbers without what decimal point. It could be negative and it could be positive. Negative integer is called negative integer, and positive integer is called positive integer. Another one we're talking about is floating point numbers. Remember, I told you integer is number without decimal point, which could be from 1, 2, 3, whatever, 100, whatever value. Now we have floating point number. Floating point number, which is the number three of the primitive primitive data type, is, say, 0.2, is 0.0.0, 0.002, 3. Now, floating point number is simply called float in Python. Now, what are floats? Floats are values or are numbers with what decimal point. It could be 3.2 is a float. It could be 1 point. Anything that has a decimal point is called float in Python, generally in programming. Then another one is called is what Boolean. Uh, um, Before I talk about Boolean, I want you to take down something, that floating point numbers are also known as double precision numbers, and it uses what 64 bits. You know, so I want you to put that down, so that it won't slip out of your mind. Then with the next one is boolean. Now let me talk about boolean. Boolean is a declarative statement that can that can only uh, hold one of the two possible value. We have it only has two values, which could either be true or false. These are the two values of boolean. You understand? So it can only hold one of the two possible values. It's that is true or false. It cannot be true and false. Boolean is always what true or false. So another one we are considering is what complex numbers. What are complex numbers? Complex numbers are okay. Let me say complex number is a number that has a real and imaginary component. What is real? Let's say we have something like a plus 3j. You understand? This is a club complex number. It has a real and the imaginary. Now, a real number is a number. It's an integer. Anyways, let me say an integer. You understand? It could also be a float. Anyways, but a complex number comprises of what? A real number and an imaginary number. An imaginary number is a number that is always concatenated or placed beside with what in your for those of you that are coming from the mathematical background, we use I, you understand, but in programming they use J. In Python generally they use J to denote it. So how this value come about will be treated and you understand why it is so. So the definition again, let me say a complex number has a real and imaginary component, both represented by float type what float types in Python. An imaginary number is a multiple of the square root of minus one. Now, when you have a number that has this square root of minus one, you understand. So by saying three j, it means three times square root of minus one. So j here equals what? Square root of minus one. You understand? So by saying two uh plus three j, we are equally saying two plus three times square root of minus one. That is it. That is what a complex number is. From the definition, it says an imaginary number. Okay, I'm trying to tell you what an imaginary number is here. So, an imaginary number is a multiple of the square root of what? Minus 1. You understand what I'm saying? So, and it's denoted by J, of course, in programming. For instance, we have this um, 2 plus 3j, and of course, it's a complex number where this 3 is what? The imaginary. You know, a complex number comprises of the real part and the imaginary part. This is the real part. This is the spelling of real, as in being real. So this real part this part is called the real part, and this one with an alphabet J is called what? The imaginary part. Don't forget, I said the alphabet J. J equals what? Square root of what? Minus one. And by having 3j, you are saying 3 times square root of what? Minus 1. I hope we are getting it. If there's any question as to this, please drop it in the comment section and I will reply you. I will reply you. Or you drop it in Discord, I will reply you. And I hope you are clear on this. I hope you are clear on this. Then the second one is the number sixth one is list. What is list? List are say other sequences of values. Now I will tell you why it is called ordered sequences of values. Now when you say you have a list, lists are other sequences of values, and it is denoted by what? A block bracket. What this is a block bracket. This bracket, square bracket. You understand? So lists are what? Ordered items of what? Other sequences of values or other numbers of items. You understand? It could be integer, it could be string, it could be true boolean, it could be float. You understand? So any ordered list of items is called what? List. Any ordered sequences of item, ordered, ORDERED. You understand? Ordered sequences of what? Items. So mind you, you will see that here I put two different types of data types. I put integer, I put string, and I as well what? Put true or false, which is boolean. And also observe that I put comma to delimitate it, to separate it. You understand? To make it a complete list. And also understand that list is what? Is enclosed in a what? In a block bracket. This is it. In a what? Square bracket. You can call it a block bracket, you can call it a square bracket. You understand? So always note that list is what? In is what? Inside what? A closed bracket, or sorry, a square bracket or a block bracket, whichever way you want to call it. And is what? Separated, delimited or separated by what? A comma. You understand? And why I had to put different types of integer is to tell you, or is to remind you that list can mix up data types. You understand? You can have integer, you can have string, you can have boolean inside a list. Another one is of course tuple. Tuple is another ordered immutable sequences of values. By immutable, what we mean is uh, it cannot be changed. Item created in a tuple are not mutable, as well as what? List, sorry, are not mutable, but lists are mutable. That is, list list equals what? Let me write it here. Let me see. Sorry. List equals what? Mutable. Mutable. You understand? Then tuple is not what? Is not mutable. Not mutable. Not mutable. You understand? It means list can be changed. Items created in a list can be what? Changed. But items created in a tuple cannot be changed. It is read only. You understand? Tuples are read only. Once created, it cannot be what? Edited. It cannot be changed. It cannot be modified. But items created in a list can be what? Modified. Then another one we have is set. What is set? Set is an unordered collection of what? Values. Unordered. List is ordered, tuples are ordered, but set are what? Unordered collection of what? Values. Then another one we have is what? Dictionary. Dictionary is what? An unordered collection of what? Key and value pairs. Key and value pairs. Now, what do I mean by key and value pairs? Um, Look at set, look at tuple, and look at list. They all have values, of course, but they don't have a key. What is a key? Look at dictionary here. A is the key and 1 is the value. B is the key and 2 is the value. C is the key and 3 is the value. You understand what I'm saying? Now, by having A column 1, you are saying this A has, sorry, I made a mistake. It's supposed to be string A. That's an error here. I will write the correct thing in the this thing. It's supposed to be what? String A. You understand? String A having having a value. So dictionary has what? A key and a value pairs. Okay, a key and a value pairs. Remember, don't forget, dictionary has what? A key and it's another collection of what? Keys and value pairs. Again, we're going to be looking at uh, basic elements in a program. What are the basic elements in a program? Let me open my VS Code. Let me open the VS Code. Let me see. Open another window. Let me open a window. Let me open a folder. Uh, let me say open a folder. Let me call it. Let me create a folder. Let me say um, lesson two in Python. Mhm. Sorry, open a folder. Sorry, lesson two. So let me, of course, let me create a file. Sorry, um, lesson, lesson two dot py. Now you will see that I write lesson two dot py. Py is an extension, extension file, extension for Python file. You understand? It's an extension for Python file. So let me say we are going to be talking about basic elements in program. Say basic element in what? In a program. Um, Let me zoom it a bit. Promise the last time that I'm going to be zooming it so that we have. Uh, yeah, I hope you can see better, and I hope you can see the screen better than it was the last time. So why I want to go into this topic is basically because I would want us to have a kind of solid understanding of the background so that by the time we start using some terms and terminologies, when we start to code properly, it won't be a situation where you will not understand the terms or the programming lingo that we'll be using in Python. So it's pertinent that you know the fundamental terms and terminologies used in programs and why they are used and why they are called what they are called. So it won't be a situation, it won't result in a situation whereby you'll be asking questions as to what is the meaning of these. You said this while you were coding, you don't understand. So to avoid sort of all sort of questions and all sort of misunderstanding, it is pertinent, it is expected that I go through the very basics and and explain every bit of every statement or every word mentioned or every word needed or that will be needed in the nearest future while we start to code proper. Like I said, basic elements in a program. You will agree with me that every program consists of certain basic elements. Of course, we are talking about certain elements. We are talking about we're talking about, say, one element is say collection of literals, um, collection of literals, collection of literals. Another one is say say collection of variables, collection of variables. No, then another one is say another key basic element is let's say keywords. Yes, collection of keywords, collection of keywords. So this next section will be this in this next section, or in this section, not this next section. This section will be talking about basic elements in a program, of course, which I have listed here. So let me explain each of those things. Let me start with collection of literals. What is a literal? A literal is a number or a string that appears directly in a program. So when you list a number, a literal, let me write it out. A literal A literal is say a number or a string. A number or a string that appears directly. Uh, okay, let me come on the same line, on the new line. Uh, that appears that appears um, directly in a program. Directly in a program. So a literal is a number or a string that appears directly in a in a what program. So if I say something like, if I say, if I do something like this, if I write something like two, this is a literal. If I write something like, say, um, let me say hello. Let me say hello. It's what? It's also a literal. A literal is what? It could be an integer. It could be a floating point. These are literals. Let me give you a typical example of a literal. It could be what? An integer which we have discussed, and it could be what? Another one. It could be say a floating point literal, a floating point, a floating point, and it could be say imaginary line, imaginary. Let's say it could be what? A complex variable. Let's say imaginary retry, we call that imaginary literal. We have another one, we can call that one to say uh, string literal. String literal. We have we have um, okay, let's stop at this. Now, what is an integer? I've explained it before. An integers are what? Whole numbers, numbers without decimal point. You understand? And float. Let me just write float. Floats are what? Numbers with what? Decimal point. It could be 0.1. It could be an example of integers is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1 million. You understand? To 1 billion. Those are integers. As far as it does not have what? Decimal value, decimal point. Then a float, excuse me, a float is any numbers with what? Decimal point. 0.1 is a float, 1.100 million time, point 10 million is a float. Anything that has what? A decimal point is called float. Then imaginary literal, we are talking about, yeah, imaginary is, we're talking about, um, we're talking about, yeah, let me, so that you won't, string literal, string literal, yeah, it's a float literal, an imaginary literal, and string literal, integer literal, float literal, imaginary literal. You understand? Now, imaginary literal, of course, is the complex variable that I just complex numbers that I just told you about before now. That is a number with a real and imaginary part. You understand? It's called what? Imaginary literal. Say, let's say this one is integer is what? Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, and what have you. Then say float is what? Say 0.2, 0.3, 5.100. You understand? Let me say 5.10, 5.1, or 5.10, whatever you want to call it, as far as that's what decimal value and so on. And then imaginary literal is, let's say, 2 uh, 2 plus 3j that I told you about. Okay, 2 plus 2j, 2 plus 3j is same thing. Then uh, we have um, we have string literal. We have say we have say string. Let's say hello. We have hello. That is what string literal. And of course, remember that um, I used single quote here. In some cases, you can use string literal could also be what could use double quote depending on what you use, and it depends on the kind of operation you are having. So you can use single quote, you can use double quote. It gives the same answer, except in some cases where you have to uh, maybe you're trying to concatenate some strings, and maybe you want to end your quote with double quote because you have started with single quote. But um, in a single operation, if you say print hello world, if I print hello world, it will give me hello in the console. If I print hello with double quote, it will give me hello with double in the console. If I print hello with a single quote, it will give me hello in the console. So it doesn't matter how many quotes, as far as it's one or two quotes. Then if you are using three quotes is it's called triple quoted string literal. You know, it sometimes it is not it is it most often used to uh, as a form of defining the functionalities of our program. It doesn't have to. It is a negligible aspect of it is a code. It's a kind of code that you are giving to a string that you are trying to tell Python to ignore. That you are just trying to tell your fellow programmer in a collaborative system, where you are trying to tell your fellow program the function or the objective of this code. So it's mostly not used. It's called multi-line. It can as well be used, of course, if you are having a multi-line uh, a string. It can be used. It's called multi-line quote quoting system. Also, of course, right, it is called triple quoted string literal. You understand? So in Python, you can use both single and double quote to represent string. You understand? The string that runs over multiple lines are represented by what? Triple quotes, which I have just said. Then another one that we'll be talking about is variables. I know we just discussed collection of literals. So now I want to talk about collection of variables. What are collection of variables? Uh, Variables are used for storing data in a program. Like for example, to set a variable, you choose a name for your variable, and then use the equal sign followed by the data that is stored. Variables can be letter, can be numbers, can be words. For example, let me say um, I have something like this. Let me say, uh, okay, let me not even put in a comment. Let me not comment it. Let's say I have L equals 10. Now, in this case, this L is a variable, and this 10 is what is stored in a variable. I'll tell you the importance of a variable. Let's say I have length. Let me say I have length equals 10. Length is another variable. Let me say length of a rectangle, length, uh, length uh, of length of a rectangle rectangle equals say 10.0, and let's say k equals string say hello world. Now you will see that here L equals 10, which is L is what meant to be variable. You will see that even the IDE is indicating what L is. You will see it's showing what L to be what a variable, and what 10 to be what literal. This is what I just discussed. If you highlight it on your VS Code, that's why I like using VS Code. So if you highlight it on your VS Code, it shows that L is a variable, while the 10 is what literal, which is what integer literal, part of the integer literal which I just discussed. Another one is length is what a variable, and what uh, 10 is what a literal. Another one is length of a rectangle is a variable, and what 10.0 is a float. Look at literal integer, literal integer, literal, it has to tell you that it's a float because it has what a decimal value. Now another one is k, which is what literal. The hello word there is what literal, which is what a string. And you know why it highlighted this is for to you know why it has to tell you this one is a float is because I use 10 here and I use 10.0 here. So the ID is trying to give you a difference of uh, a float so that you won't make a mistake of calling this integer because it's 10.0. So 0 means nothing. No, it is not like so in programming. Programming, the moment you put dot, it is what? A float. Then here, of course, because it is 10, there's no dot, it becomes an integer. And the moment I just put dot, 0, it is not the same thing as a string. I mean, sorry, it's not the same thing as an integer. It is what? A float. Look at it. It will indicate a float. Do you get what I'm saying? So the moment I remove this, it becomes what? It's just a literal, and it's called, of course, an integer. Now, why do we have to store uh why do we have to store our value in a variable? You can The reason being that uh when you say when you print a data, you understand, a literal, let me use that, and you say, let's say you print a literal, and later on in your code, you want to refer to what you printed. If you have not stored it in a variable, you won't be able to make reference to it. You have lost the data, except you go back to that code and what? Store that particular data in a variable. If you don't store any data in a variable, you won't be able to make reference to it. So the essence, in fact, number one reason for storing a data in a variable is to be able to have what? Make reference to it, so that it won't be lost in operation. You understand what I'm saying? So that is that. And of course, you can see in this preceding example here that I'm hovering over, that variable can be single character or a word. You understand? Or words connected with what? Underscore. I will tell you the different type of variables that we have. We have we have the normal variable. You understand? We have the snake casing variable. We have um, we have the Pascal casing. We have the Pascal casing. And we have the what? We have the normal casing. We have the snake casing, and we have camel casing. We have what? Camel casing in camel casing form of variable. Camel casing form of what? A variable. Please don't forget this. We have snake casing kind of variable. We have Pascal casing, and we have what? Camel casing. So along the line, as we begin to code, I'll be using um, each of these kind of variable. I'll be using each of these casing to make a variable, and from there I'll be telling you, okay, this is snake casing, so that you have a practical example of different kind of casing in variable. So, depending on the data that is stored in a variable, of course, there are termed integer, you have floating point, you have the string, you have boolean and list or tuple variable. You understand? You can store all of these data types in a variable. You can store integer, you can store floating point, you can store, that is the float. You can store string, you can store boolean in a variable. Of course, you can say, um, you can say, um, say you can say something like uh, say uh, Nigeria Nigeria equals string Africa, for example. You know, uh, you understand? Okay, let me say, you no, let me not do it this way. So let me say Nigeria is an is what is an African country. Is what? An African country, or is in Africa. Let me say Nigeria is what? In Africa, which is what? True. You understand? So let's try to over around it. Yeah, variable, and of course, Nigeria is in Africa. Literal equals what? True. You understand? So you can store anything. At this point, I'm trying to store Boolean. You understand? So I'm storing Boolean in what? In uh, a Boolean value in a variable. So variable can store anything. Variable is just like a container. You know, um, say for example, you have um, you have some items, and if you want to, in the list of items, maybe you have an items. You have a bag where you put some set of clothes. You have a bag where you put on some pairs of shoes and all that. If you want to refer, or if you want to make reference to those items, you will refer to the container. Okay, give me that bag of shoes. Give me that bag of clothes. So variable is what playing that role, is playing that functionality, and that is that, of course. So like in this example, the variable L and length are what? Are integer variables. And of course, um length of rectangle length of a rectangle is what? Is a floating point variable. And K, of course, is a string variable. You understand? So, and of course, I use Nigeria is in Africa equals true, is what? A Boolean variable. So, and there are keywords in Python. You understand? So let me deal with keywords. I want to be as fast as possible so that I can take us away from this verbose, much verbosity, trying to explain so much wordy things, so that we can go to um, coding in proper. But I figured that uh, I battled with such I had such similar problem because I was much more interested in the coding without having to um, get vivid understanding of the terminologies used and all that. So I sometimes I mostly use my language until my attention was called to it, and I began to live in that consciousness. So as fellow programmers, you need to understand the definitions and terminologies in programming, of course in Python specifically, so that you can make reference. You can, when you are talking in line with uh, in the understanding of the terminologies you've been told or you've been taught, so that you won't just be saying, you won't just be using your own language to depict things in Python. So let's quickly deal with keywords in Python. Keywords what in Python? What are keywords? Python has 30 keywords, which are identifiers. Uh, Let me say these are the keyword identifiers, uh, which are identifiers that Python reserves for special use. It is Python reserves those identifiers as what? For special use. Now, let me repeat myself. I say Python has 30 keywords, which are identifiers that Python reserves for special use. Keyword contains lowercase letters only. You cannot use keyword as regular what? Identifier. So let me give you the full. Let me give you the keywords of Python. We have uh, we have we have and sorry, it has to be in lowercase. We have and we have in. Let me say assert. We have uh, break. We have class. We have continue. We have f. We have del. We have elif. We have else. We have except. We have exec. We have finally. We have finally. Uh, Sorry, let me put it on the next line so that you'll be able to see it. Okay. Finally, finally, we have. I'm trying to give you all the keywords. We have four. We have from. We have global. We have local. We have global. We have local. We have if. We have import. We have in. We have is. We have lambda. We have not. We have or. We have we have not. We have or. We have pass. We have what again? Do we have? We have prints. We have raise. We have return. Return. We have try. We have try. We have while. We have um, we have try. We have while. We have with, and of course the final one. We have you. Now, let me point something to you that don't feel like you have to remember memorize all these things. I know it because of course, sometimes I always refer to documentations, and it's something I've been working with over time. So you are not meant to memorize it. You understand? Programming is not about memorizing. Programming is not memorizing. You don't have to cram things. You don't have to memorize things. That is not programming. You have to understand it, and you don't have to but I'm not expecting you to have this at the back of your mind. Of course, I don't expect you to have it in your head. You understand? So you can just write it down to make reference to it. You understand? So as you start building projects, as we go deeper, you don't even have to memorize it. Everything will just because it would have been something you see every day. It would have been something you do every day. It would have been something you come across every time. So it will just flow naturally. So you don't have to memorize it. So don't feel like, how is it possible to memorize this? It is possible, but don't memorize it. It does not make a good programmer to be memorizing things. You understand? So that is that. These are the keywords. Mind you, these keywords. Why I'm giving you these keywords is keywords are not to be used as variables. Take note, keywords, you cannot use keywords in as a variable in Python. You understand? Don't use keywords as what? Variables in Python. So always remember that keywords are not to be used as variables in what? Python. Another one is comment. Another one we want to talk about now is comment. Comment. What are comments? Comments are, let me give you the definition. Okay, comments are the lines that are for documentation purpose, you know, and are ignored by the interpreter. What I just did now, this is example of comment. Now, by doing this, you will see that Python is highlighting it, and there's a bulb at it. It says show code action. Now, let me show code action. It said hard blah 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 blah. It's telling me to fix the bug because this thing is not what defined by pylons. You understand? You will see as I hover on it, it's telling me that this thing is that I put in a string or is not defined by what? Pylons. You understand? So if I try to do quick fix, maybe it will what? Add it will put a string quotation. You understand? But if I do this, I just commented on the code. What I just did was is what I just did is I'm just saying I just told Python to ignore that line that is just for what? Documentation purpose. You understand? It is not to be what? Run by the it Python is not meant to run it. You understand? I'm not running a code. I'm just trying to give documentation. So the moment I put this hash sign, I have told Python to ignore it. But if I don't put hash sign, I'm telling Python that area is what area of what concern that Python should run it. And Python will tell me, come, this thing, it will underline that this thing is error. Now you cannot, it is not understood. What do you want me to run? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? But the moment I put hash, sorry, the moment I put hash, I have just told Python that please ignore this. It is for documentation purpose. So comments are the lines that are for documentation purposes and are what ignored by the interpreter. You understand? Another thing is the comment inform the reader. What other things that the comment does is when I'm working on a project, and of course maybe you find yourself in a company and you are working in a project with fellow programmers. What you are doing is maybe in a big project you are working on one functionality, another programmer is working on one functionality. You understand? So before you submit your code or before you there's one thing we call collaboration. You want to collaborate on your code. Now, if your fellow programmer wants to see, your fellow programmer will know, okay, you have documented this code, and that is what makes a good programmer. You have to document every of your code, what the code does. You understand? So your colleagues or your fellow programmer will understand that okay, this code is doing so thing. So by putting comments, you are telling Python that come, this thing is for documentation, is not to be run. So you are by putting a documentation, it is for human um, consumption, it is for human to read, not computer to what to run. You understand what I'm saying? So that is it. So the comment informs the reader what the program is all about. A comment begins by what? A hash sign, which is this. You have to begin a comment by what? A hash sign, which I just did, which I just did. So all characters after the comment sign and up to the physical lines and up to the physical line hand are what? Part of the comment. You understand? The moment I change, you will observe that from the previous listing. Let me say I'm writing something. You understand? Up to the moment I press tab, I mean new line, you understand? You will see that the comment is not what covering anything on the new lines, except I use three codes to do multi-lines comment or multi-line uh, or documentations and all that. You understand? But the moment I change the line at which I have started with with a comment sign, which is a hash sign, the moment I change line of code, it will not. Python will see it as what? Code. And of course, this is a code because I put what? A string. But if I just put a hash sign, it shows that I'm still telling Python, don't run it. It is not a code. You understand? So the comment inform the reader what the program is all about. A comment begins by hash sign. All characters after the hash sign and up to the physical line and up to the physical line are part of the word comment, for example, which I have just did. You understand? This is an example. So I hope you understand um comment, and if there's anything you don't understand about commenting, please you can of course um, uh, write it on the um, you can drop a comment on the comment column, or you just write to me in the Discord. You know, you have my Discord number, I mean my Discord detail. You can just write to me on the Discord that you don't understand so thing, and I will do my best to reply, and I will do my best to explain further. Then the next thing we'll be talking about is continuation lines. Continuation lines. Continuation lines. Now, what are continuation lines? A physical line is a line that you see in a program. A logical line is a line, is a kind of single statement in Python terms. In Python, the end of a physical line marks the end of the most statement. Now, if I write a line, the end of it marks the end of the statement. You understand? When a statement is too long to fit in on a single line, you can join two adjacent physical line into a logical by ensuring that the first line has no comment and ends with what? A backslash. Now, if because of course our screen, the width of our screen has has an end. So the moment I start typing on multiple lines, and if I want to change to the other line and I want the Python to still see it as part of my code, it's just for me to say forward slash. I mean, sorry, backslash. Sorry, backslash. You understand? And the backslash is being highlighted because am using a commenting, so ignore that. So I have to use a commenting to uh, so that the Python will not start reading my explanation as code. So continuation line is when you introduce a backslash to tell Python that continue from the next line. Of course, by the time you start example in practical, you'll be seeing how to use backslash to tell Python that continue from the next line. So another word you would not want to miss is printing. Printing. Let me write it in lowercase so that um, you will know. For printing message and result of computation, we use print statement. Print statement. We use a print statement, a print method. Now, a print function is with the following syntax. Let me say, let me print a statement now. Let me say, uh, um, let me print, Nigeria. Sorry, let me print Nigeria, because Nigeria is a string literal. I will have to what put a quoted. I will have to put it inside a quote. So Nigeria. Now, if I want to see this Nigeria on the console, I will run the program and say print. It will what? It will print Nigeria. Sorry, here I typed Nigeria wrongly. Maybe because they are not doing the right thing, so I typed it wrongly. Anyways, that being said, that aside, so you understand now, you will see that this code, I can't make reference to it. Why can't I make reference to it? It's basically because I ran it without storing it in a variable. That is one importance of a variable. One importance of variable I was talking about. Let's say, let me say country equals Nigeria. So in this case, I will not print Nigeria. I will print what? The variable, because I will make reference to the variable. So I don't need to print Nigeria. I will just print what's the variable? Country. You understand? So print that. It will bring same Nigeria. You understand? I just ran a code. Congratulations. We just did one code. We just ran one Python code. And that's for, of course, the beginning of good things to come. Then, for printing messages and result of compilation, the print statement or the print function is used with the following syntax. Uh, this syntax, with this following syntax, you understand? So, before, since I've done printing, we have finished all this continuation line, blah 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 blah. I think we will go into coding proper in the next class. Thank you um, for watching this. Thank you very much. I appreciate, and God bless you. Thank you.